All right, today we're going to be showing you guys some things that we are doing with these consoles that I don't think anybody else is doing, so we thought we'd make a video just to help you guys out with seeing it. So we've got the Heritage D96Ks, and then we are going into some 9680s and a 9650 and into an M32 core, and then we're coming out of the M32 core sending returns back into the Heritage D, and then we are sending those out into the 9680. And then from the 9680, we're implementing some of the IO boxes. And this could be anything. It doesn't have to be the 151s, 154s. And we're converting all this stuff from 96 back to 48, and then back to 96, back to 48. And the latency is almost unnoticeable, which we have a few things we can show you to kind of do that. And it's also allowing us to use multi-mode fiber. So right now this console is actually shooting through 500 feet of fiber, which we know this is not armored fiber. We're just using it to test everything. And we're just going to show you how everything's routed, how it works, and kind of give you an overview of what it's doing. So first thing first, on the 9680s and the 9650s, you do have to set them up and do a firmware upgrade to where they are compatible with the Heritage Ds. That's in another video that you can find on our channel. And after you get that set up, what we have found out, which is pretty cool, I don't know if it's just with the Heritage Ds, you can switch back and forth between fiber optic and copper without having to go back in and reset the 9680. So right now we're on optical, so fiber optic, we can go back to copper. When we go back to copper, you're gonna see we have lost sync and connection on our 9680. And then we will go back and just switch this back to optical, and then you will see it fire back up in just a minute and is ready to go, which is pretty cool because I'm pretty sure on our Pro X you end up having to go into the actual 9680 using a laptop and get everything back up and going. So that quickly we're back up into fiber from switching that. So pretty cool if you end up having to go fiber back to AES if something happens during a show, at least you don't have to break out a laptop and change everything on this 9680. So there's a quick little bit on that, and now we'll get into the routing. All right, so this is going to be the back of the 9680 and the 9650. We try to make it look as neat and tidy as possible using, which of course all this is external stuff going out to things, but using right angle IECs and extremely 2-length Ethernet cables. So what we're doing is we've got our 9680 on the bottom, and we're coming in with the multi-mode fiber. It cannot be single mode, and it is an LC connector duplex, or you can come in using Ethernet. So we have two of our cables coming from our 9650, and this is going to be converting our 96K to 48K, vice versa. And inside of our 9650 we have Clark Technics AES 50 modules, and that's running at 48K, and coming out of that is going to our core. So we're using our two outputs from our core into here for send and returns. And then we are coming out of the 9650, converting it from 48K back and forth 96K. So this is converting it to 96K, going into the 9680. And then this will be our two stage boxes. And then you can do up to 6 stage boxes with this configuration. If you're not doing anything with M32 core like we're doing, you can do 8. And all of that is going through HyperMac via either fiber or in regular Ethernet cable, which is pretty crazy, and it's literally Cat 5e. It doesn't have to be anything special. And I can't remember honestly if they want it to be shielded or not on this. The Pro Series is kind of weird. They recommended not to be shielded. So we went ahead and wrote our IP addresses to where we don't have to search for it if there's something emergent that comes up on the show. But that's pretty much what's happening on the back of this, and we will go on the console and look at the patching. All right, so now we're going to be taking a little bit of a look at the routing. So we'll just kind of look down at this screen here. So on this side is going to be everything that is kind of a return or an input coming in from the M32, if that makes any sense. So we went ahead and just named these M32 1 through 24 and 25 through 48. So these will be the outputs from the M32 core. So make sure we're locked here. So I'll go ahead and hit here. Our first channel is being returned to a tape return. So the tape return, which we can just go to where you can see it, is going to be returning to our virtual sound check on the console itself. So pretty much I've got, and you can just kind of see by following, we've got all these channels returned depending on where they need to go on here to do a virtual sound check. So that's going to get the first 24, and then on this side, we've got these little guys are doing the next to get our 32. So then we still have these rest of these, which will end up being the next, which would truly be 20, let's see what that would be. Sorry, 33, 34, blah, 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 all the way through the end. So in our 33, we are actually returning these, not to our tape returns, but to our inputs, which sounds really strange, but we'll show you why in a minute. So this is going to be input 101, 102, 103, 104, blah, 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 all the way through 116. So kind of weird why we'd be doing that, but what we're end up doing up on the console is, and I'll try to use the mouse to not get my hand in the way. So on our input channels, 101 through, if I can find it, there we go. So in our inputs 101 through 116, these are actually inputs that are outputting to monitors. So this is going to be just following 101 through 16, which of course it all doesn't fit on this one page. But if we click on the next layer, you can see through 116. So each one of these are independently going to the output associated with it. And I just started on 101 because it's gonna be very rare we ever use more than 100 channels. So output 100, or input 100, I guess you could say, is outputting to aux 1. And then this next one is only outputting to, or sorry, I selected the wrong one. 101 is only outputting to aux 1. 102 is only outputting to aux 2. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, blah, blah, blah. So we'll go down to 7. You can see it's only outputting to 7. 8 is only outputting to 8. And as you keep going through, I'm sure you'll figure it out. It's a one-to-one thing. So basically, this is going to be our returns from the M32 core for monitor mixes. So they're going to show up to here and then shoot back out through HyperMac to come out of our DL boxes. So you're probably wondering, why in the crap are we doing that? Why don't we just come out of this, use another box? First off, it'd be another box. We're trying to make setup and tear down really quick. Second off, if we happen to have more than our 40 channels that we're cheating to get out of the M32 core, we could also take channel, let's say, we'll go back to this, channel 56 or 63, let's just say that. We could still take channel 63, select it, and turn it into aux 4, and it would still come out of monitor mix 4. So essentially we have somebody helping out with about 40 channels from the M32 core, but then we have the ability to put whatever else is coming through this console through it. And even better than that, if I end up going back to the monitors, I can still go through from front of house if I hear feedback, and I can EQ it. So we can go back to that channel view, and I can end up doing a little bit of EQ to fix a feedback problem if for some reason our monitor tech has had to go to the bathroom or something. And you can also do compression and all sorts of other things. So pretty cool, pretty neat little way to do that. So that's how that's going. And now we'll get back into the patching. So now that you've seen how our outputs from the core are going, now we're gonna look at our inputs. So over here on this side, these are gonna be our inputs that are going from the Heritage D to the core. So in our first sets here, we're stealing them straight from the DL boxes. So channel 1 of our DL151 is going to be channel 1 going to the core. So vice versa, blah, 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 goes all the way through 24, just keeping them in order. So then our next set of outputs, the 25 through 48, is going to be coming from our DL154. And then it's going to be the first ones there. So you still have these other ones that are left, and what we're utilizing, our built-in I/O, we have our CD player, or our, I guess it's really not CD anymore, it's more of like an iPad or an iPhone that's coming into an iPad that is underneath this, in this drawer. So when it's playing, we have kind of cheated and we've got it coming into these little guys on the bottom. So that basically allows us to have some of the local I/O still shooting into the iPad if somebody's going to sing to tracks or do anything kind of crazy. So that's a way you can do that. You can actually add, since we still have quite a few open, more channels if you need to. And then of course the 154 is also sending to not only the M32 core, we have to make it go to the inputs. So on our inputs, we have, try to find our 151. our 151 would need to be routed to these. So you can end up just selecting them, which were locked. And we will go ahead and route those, and that's got those routed. And then on our 154, we can just make those be in the next corresponding order. And it's really that easy to route what's going into the console. So if we were to add a 251 or another 151, 153, 231, a 431, whatever we add, it's really that easy just to kind of switch everything back and forth. A little bit confusing at first, but once you get the hang of it, it's very easy to just kind of route these both places. So now we're going to take a look at the M32 core and just check it out. All right, so we are into our M32 core app here, and we have got every single channel set up as post fader. So the reasoning for that is to where if, let's say, we have a vocal to where every single mix, you just kind of hear a little bit of feedback and you don't know where it's at, you can barely turn down that vocal, and it's going to end up turning it down in all 16 mixes, instead of having to go through very quickly and go to the sends and just take them up or down, whatever you need to do. So there's that. So now we'll take a look at routing. And in our routing, you are probably not going to be able to see it because I forgot that they have not updated to where you can see user-defined inputs, and it just kind of looks weird. So we might have to do this through Mixing Station anyway. So we will go and see if we can update this app, and if not, we will do Mixing Station. All right, so this can be a little bit hard to follow. We're going to have to do it through Mixing Station, which is a cool app because the M32 app is not going to let us do it. But on our input blocks here, you can see we've got our inputs coming from AES50 A1 through 8, and then all the rest are user-defined. So we have 9 through 16, 17 through 24, 25 through 32. And then the reason this user in 1 through 6 is over here and our AES50A is over here is because we will hardly ever have anything change on our drum channels. That's pretty much at least the first 8 channels are going to be for drums. So then if we go back, and I guess I can go ahead and show you this while we're here, our playback is literally going to be card returns because that's what we want it to be, is straight from the card. So we'll go back here and we will go back to user routing now. So the user routing is going to look extremely confusing. These are going to be local inputs up at the top. We're not using any local inputs. That's the reason none of that's routed. So as we go over to here, we have the AES50A inputs that are coming in, and this is going to be A blah 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 through blah blah blah. And it looks weird. We have a few gaps. There's a reason for that we'll get to over here. So we are going to be using our user inputs. So we'll get way over here to that. And you'll see that we have this AES 4748. Those are those track channels that I was telling you about that we were returning from the front of house to this console. So as we will go to, since we're in inputs, oh, sorry, I was confused looking around. So this whole thing is a user input. I was looking for user up at the top. So pretty much we have got on our user inputs, we have got 1, 2, 3, and 4, which doesn't matter because we're not even utilizing those at all since it's inputs 1 through 8. So we start using them at the 9 through 16 mark, and you can see that we've got our inputs starting here on 9 is 9, 10, 11, 12, blah, 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 going all the way through down just to keep it in order to 24. And then that's where it gets a little bit weird because you only have 24 inputs since we're having to convert to 96K. So then to catch back on our 25th input, we have to go over here to our AES50B, which is coming out of that 9650. And as you can see, that's where we start back at 25. So we've got 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, blah, 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 all the way down through 32. So that's going to get us our 32 inputs that we need for our input channels. And then as I was saying earlier, since we're using that user-defined input 1 through 6 as an aux remapping, we've just got 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now. And then the most important part, the only one we're actually using, is way over here. And that's going to be 47 and 48 are returning to our inputs 5 and 6, which in our block view is way over here in this user in 1 through 6. So that allows us to have 6 channels of whatever we want. We will not have compressor inputs or compressor control, sorry, or a couple of other things, but you still have EQ, and it is definitely enough for us to be able to do for a CD player. So that's how we've got everything coming into the core, and then we can actually go back and we can show you, which I haven't done it from here for a while, we go to X Live, we can actually fire a track here. So we'll load one, play, and as you can see here, we actually have stuff recording, and then while it's recording, I'm going to grab another recording device, and we'll show you that that's working on the console as well. Alright, so switching over to this one now, you can see that we are playing from the app, and then if we go back over to our console, I'm going to lay this guy down, and we hit virtual sound check. Now we actually have inputs coming in from the M32 core returned to the HD96. So we can do a virtual sound check off of what's recorded on the core here and on the core itself, which is pretty nice. So works pretty well. The way that we're able to do that is we have the monitor inputs are not associated at all with the let's see if we can find that for you. It's a certain button. So there we go, aux return mode. So we've got that turned on these channels. That way, whenever we are in on the virtual sound check, you can still have these as inputs. So to show you what I'm talking about on that, we can take any channel and let's turn it up in monitor 3. So we're gonna turn up this kick drum, whatever, just some noise. That's gated, so probably not the best choice. And then you can see that we have some signal coming in on aux 3 and aux 4. And if we were to turn that back down, we should have nothing going into the console. But all that's coming in and going back out. So now we'll hook up a speaker to let you actually hear what's going on. So now to be able to show you the outputs, we'll play a track, and we are coming out of output 16, which is what we've got routed as the left into this little speaker just to test it. So we'll play. I'm a white boy. And you've got pretty much everything is coming in, drums, guitars, vocals, whatever. So then if we end up switching this, we will end up switching to a monitor output just to show you how we have the iPad control to switch over to this. So now we'll do monitor mix 1. So we're going to go ahead and hit play here and just show you guys that we have control from the M32 core going up. It is going into that, going out of this into that. And then you can build your mix however you need to. So if he goes on the sends on fader, we can leave that volume up a little. We just got some stuff going. So pretty easy to be able to do that and to be able to feed through here and then go out of the aux into the DL into a monitor. So a lot of back and forth going on, but really cool for us to be able to still control that. And then if we were playing music through the cable I showed you here, it would go through the console here, and then it goes into our aux inputs here. And so all that can be done just rerouting if you need to. But pretty cool, allowing us to be able to still have monitor control through an iPad and be able to just use one cable to be able to get everything going, and still have EQ control here and able to do channel contribution to it as well to go through there. And if you're wondering how we were doing the talkback mic, it's basically going into a channel and it's fed to all 16 of the outputs. It's not doing anything into these. So that allows us to be able to go to stage to have a talkback as well. So if you have any questions, let us know. Please hit like and subscribe, and we will keep bringing things to you. I did forget one last thing I was going to show you guys. So right now we have that virtual sound check going on, and at any point, the way we have this routed, you can just hold virtual sound check, and we're back to the actual live inputs. So really cool if a band does do a sound check and you want to just keep dialing it in after they leave, that's the way you can do it. And we're recording the sound check on the M32 core and playing it back as we showed you in the routing to here. So there's that.
So just to show off this little layout, I've got for monitors on the M32 core, I've got it on, it's basically sends on fader for each monitor. So this EQ controls the EQ of each monitor, and this would be putting channels in each monitor. And then everything is post fader, so everything's at unity. And then I can trim each channel. I can select a channel, I can change the color of it up here. I can quickly go to the sends if I want to send it to multiple channels. We've got my mute groups up here on the top left. I can quickly get to EQ, compressor, gate, quickly get to a scribble strip. And then if I hit mode switch right here, I can switch to the channel EQ for each channel. But that's less important. And then I've got the feedback detector in here. It's kind of a cool little feature. We don't use it a lot, but it works sometimes. And then you got your layers down here. I've got a custom layer that's my usual bunch that I have to deal with. But that's about it.